Top 10 celebrities who became dangerous killers. First up, we have Aaron Hernandez, the fall of an NFL star.
Despite having picked up Owen Lloyd at 2:23, only 3 people returned to Aaron Hernandez's house.
In 2013, Aaron Hernandez was at the absolute peak of professional sports. Now, as a star, tight end for the New England Patriots, he had just signed a $40 million contract extension. He was a household name, celebrated by millions of fans across the country. But outside the stadium, Hernandez lived a double life, deeply entrenched in paranoia and gang culture. In June 2013, the body of semi-professional football player Owen Lloyd was discovered in an industrial park near Hernandez's mansion, having sustained multiple fatal injuries. Investigators quickly traced the crime back to Hernandez, uncovering a trail of home surveillance footage and cellular data that placed him directly at the scene. The motive appeared to be a minor personal grievance that Hernandez's volatile temper escalated into an execution. He was convicted of first-degree murder in 2015 and handed a life sentence without parole, completely destroying his legacy before taking his own life in his cell 2 years later. Next, we have Michael Jace, the Hollywood Outrage. Actor Michael Jace was best known for his long-running role on the critically acclaimed television drama The Shield, ironically playing a law enforcement officer dedicated to protecting the public. But behind closed doors, Jace harbored an explosive temper and severe domestic grievances. In May of 2014, Jace became consumed by a furious rage over marital difficulties and an impending divorce from his wife, April. When she returned to their Los Angeles home from a youth sporting event with their 2 young children, Jace confronted her in the hallway. In a completely unprovoked act of physical aggression, he targeted her legs so she could not run away, before executing a fatal assault right in front of their young sons, who were under the age of 10. Jace then calmly called emergency services himself to report the crime, and he was convicted of second-degree murder and sentenced to 40 years to life in prison. Moving on to O.J. Simpson, the trial of the century. Perhaps no celebrity downfall has ever captivated the global public more than that of O.J. Simpson. He was an absolute cultural icon, legendary Hall of Fame football star, a charismatic Hollywood actor, and a prominent commercial pitchman loved by millions. That adoration transformed into pure shock in June 1994 when Simpson's ex-wife Nicole Brown Simpson and her friend Ronald Goldman were found brutally murdered outside her home in Brentwood, California. The physical evidence pointing to Simpson was immense, including hair, fibers, and his own matching footprints at the scene, leading to the infamous slow-speed white Ford Bronco police chase watched by 95 million people. Though, his high-priced legal team secured a criminal acquittal in 1995, a civil jury later found him completely liable for the deaths, ordering him to pay over $33 million to the victims' families, cementing his status as one of history's most controversial figures. Moving on, we have Sid Vicious, the punk rock tragedy. As the basis for the legendary punk rock band, the Sex Pistols, Sid Vicious was the absolute poster child for the chaotic, self-destructive counterculture movement of the late 1970s. His entire persona was built on absolute rebellion, volatility, and substance use. In October 1978, the dark reality of that lifestyle caught up with him at the famous Chelsea Hotel in New York City. Vicious awoke from a heavy, substance-induced stupor to discover the lifeless body of his girlfriend and manager, Nancy Spungen, on the bathroom floor, having sustained a single fatal injury to her abdomen. Vicious initially confessed to the crime, stating he had carried out the assault during an argument, but later recanted his statement, claiming he had no memory of the evening due to his state of intoxication. He was arrested and charged with second-degree murder, but he never faced a jury, and just a few months later, while out on bail, he succumbed to an actual fatal overdose, leaving the tragic event forever shrouded in mystery. Finally, we have Oscar Pistorius, the Blade Runner tragedy. Oscar was an international hero known globally as the Blade Runner. The South African double amputee sprinter made history by completing against able-bodied athletes at the 2012 London Olympics. He was a global symbol of triumph over adversity, appearing on major magazine covers worldwide. That inspiring image shattered on Valentine's Day in 2013. Emergency personnel responded to Pistorius' upscale home in in Pretoria, where they discovered the lifeless body of his girlfriend, acclaimed model Reva Steenkamp. She had been targeted through a locked bathroom door. Pistorius denied and maintained that it was a horrific mistake, claiming he genuinely believed a dangerous intruder had broken into his home in the middle of the night. However, prosecutors successfully argued that the couple had engaged in a screaming argument just hours prior, and that, he acted with intense, reckless aggression. Initially, convicted of culpable homicide, his charge was upgraded to murder upon appeal. He spent years behind bars before being released on parole. Let's talk about Ray Kurth, the calculated ambush. In 1997, wide receiver Ray was a first-round NFL draft pick for the Carolina Panthers, earning hundreds of thousands of dollars and looking at a stellar athletic career. But when his pregnant girlfriend, Cherika Adams, refused to terminate her pregnancy, he decided to protect his finances in the most horrific way imaginable. In November 1999, Ray organized a highly coordinated ambush, hiring a hitman to target Adams while she was driving her vehicle in North Carolina. He actively participated in the plot, using his own car to block Adams' vehicle so the hitman could pull up alongside her and execute the assault. Now, despite sustaining extreme injuries, Adams managed to call 911 and identify him as the mastermind before tragically slipping away a month later. Miraculously, medical staff managed to deliver the baby through emergency procedures, and though the child suffered permanent physical disabilities due to oxygen deprivation, Kurth fled the state but was found hiding in the trunk of a car at a motel. He was convicted of conspiracy to commit murder and served 19 years in prison. Now here's a big one we all know. Robert Blake, the Beretta mystery. In the 1970s, Emmy Award-winning actor Robert Blake was a massive television star, famous for playing a tough, street-smart detective on the hit show Beretta. Decades later, his real-life legal troubles would completely eclipse his acting achievements. In May 2001, Blake and his wife Bonnie Lee Bakley went out for dinner at a restaurant in Studio City, California. Moments after they left the establishment and entered their parked vehicle, Bakley was subjected to a sudden, fatal physical assault. Blake claimed he had briefly left his wife alone to walk back into the restaurant to retrieve a weapon he had accidentally left behind. Investigators didn't buy that story, though, later arresting Blake after a retired stuntman came forward claiming the actor had explicitly tried to hire them to eliminate his wife. While a criminal jury ultimately acquitted him due to a lack of physical evidence, a civil court found him responsible for her wrongful death, ordering him to pay $35 million and leaving his reputation permanently ruined. Next up, we have Ryan Grantham, the screen-to-reality nightmare. Ryan Grantham was a successful young Canadian actor who had appeared in major Hollywood productions, including the hit television series Riverdale and the film Diary of a Wimpy Kid. He had achieved a level of success most young actors could only dream of. But behind his professional success, Grantham was experiencing a severe psychological unraveling, sinking into a very dark depression filled with intense urges towards mass violence. In March 2020, while his mother, Barbara Waite, was quietly playing the piano in their home, Grantham approached her from behind and executed a fatal assault. The next day, he packed a vehicle with multiple weapons and explosive devices, intending to drive to Ottawa to attempt an attack on the Prime Minister of Canada. Thankfully, he ultimately turned his vehicle around and surrendered to local police. He was sentenced to life in prison with no chance of parole for 14 years. Phil Spector, the final curtain. Phil Spector was a musical genius who revolutionized the music industry in the 1960s, creating the legendary wall of sound recording technique and producing timeless hits for the Beatles, the Righteous Brothers, and the Ronettes. But, behind his creative brilliance lay a highly volatile, eccentric individual obsessed with carrying concealed weapons. In February 2003, actress Lana Clarkson was found deceased inside the foyer of Spector's castle-like mansion in California, having sustained a fatal injury from a weapon placed inside her mouth. Spector claimed that Clarkson's death was an accidental self-inflicted incident, but, his defense crumbled when multiple women from his past took the witness stand. They painted a terrifying pattern of behavior, testifying that Spector had routinely held them at weapon point whenever they tried to leave his residence. In 2009, he was convicted of second-degree murder and sentenced to 19 years to life, ultimately dying behind prison walls. Moving to Claus von Ballo, the high society mystery. Claus was a prominent, wealthy British socialite married to Sunny von Ballo, a massive American heiress worth tens of millions of dollars. The couple lived a life of extraordinary luxury in a sprawling mansion in Newport, Rhode Island, moving in the most elite circles of high society. In 1980, Sunny fell into a sudden, permanent vegetative coma from which she would never recover. An intense investigation launched by her children revealed that her system contained lethal levels of insulin. Prosecutors charged Claus with attempted murder, presenting a theory that he had deliberately delivered the medical doses to inherit her massive fortune and pursue an affair with an actress. He was initially found guilty in a sensationalized 1982 trial, but he hired a high-profile Harvard law professor who successfully overturned the conviction on appeal, arguing that Sunny's condition was self-induced. Though he walked free, the public remained deeply convinced of his malice until his passing. 10 individuals who had the entire world at their feet, their downfall serve as a chilling reminder that talent, charisma, and immense success cannot erase deep-seated malice, and that the flash of the camera can easily mask the ultimate darkness.